Hey guys, it's Mr. Katz. I just wanted to go through a couple of the problems. We're basically going to be going through a lot of the problems towards the end of the packet, the ones that go up to 10, which I believe at the top say something about extended answers or conic section capture sheet. It's basically the conic section one that goes to 10. So let's get right to it. I'm not going to show you all the graphs. The answers are on Edline, so I'm just going to tell you how I did them. Station number 3 gives you this problem. Go ahead and, before we do each one, go ahead and pause it and try to go find the page, and then obviously play it. But I'm not gonna stop and hold for now on. All right. So this, by the fact that you only have one thing squared, the y is going to be the only variable squared in this problem. I know that this is going to be a parabola. If you look at the number in front, it's a positive 4. That comes from either negative 4p or positive 4p. And since p is always going to be a distance, and it's always positive, if this 4 is positive, I know it comes from positive 4p. Well, that would mean that my p in this problem is 1. This gives me the vertex of my parabola. So my vertex of my parabola is going to be at negative 3, positive 2. My p will be 1. So if I go ahead and make a rough sketch of this graph, my vertex is negative 3, positive 2. I know since it's y squared and not x squared, it's either going to be going left or right. And because it's positive, it means it's going to the right. So I know my directrix is going to be behind right here. And I'm going to use using my p, going 1 back. This would be my directrix at y equals negative 4. So I know my parabola is going to be going this way. First, it's nice to find my focus. My focus is, again, 1 up, which is the p. And then if I go, remember, if you go 4 times p is going to be the length of this whole line right here to get us how wide our parabola is, or 2p on this side. So 2 times 1, if I go 2 over this side and 2 over this side, I can now draw my parabola going through those points. Other thing you might need to know is where the focus is, and we already did that. Focus is right here, and all of it is on the axis of symmetry. Both the focus, the vertex, and pretty much anything we would need would be through that line of symmetry. It says write an equation of a circle whose diameter lies between these 2 points. Well, if the diameter lies between these points, and this is a circle, I would want to find the center of the circle first. Well, if I average 4 and 0 and I get an answer of 2, that means my center is going to be at 3, 2. If this is the diameter and it goes from 4 to 0, that means the diameter is 4, which means the radius would have to be half of that, which is 2. So my center of my circle is going to change. It's not just going to be x squared. It's going to be x minus 3 squared, because that's where the center is, the x coordinate of the center, plus, because again, that's the center. And this equals the radius squared. And since the radius is 2, I know my radius squared would be 4. And again, if I'm going quick, go ahead and rewind. I think that once you had done these problems, this will be good enough for you to kind of understand where you made mistakes. Here it says write this equation of this in standard form. We don't know what it is. I know it's not a parabola because you have x squared and y squared. So I'm going to separate my x squared plus 2x. I'm going to complete this square by adding 1 to both sides. Because if I do that, this will factor into a perfect square. And then my y's. To complete the square, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. And I'm going to actually keep this negative 4 out of it. In fact, from the very beginning, I could have actually gotten rid of it by adding 4 on both sides. So that's another 4. Well, here I have y squared minus 4y plus 4. Well, that will factor into y minus 2 squared. And if I add all these up, which is we're all on the other side of the equation, it equals 9. 1 plus 4 plus 4. So this is the equation, and this is going to be this is actually going to be a circle again. You have a center at negative 1, positive 2, and the radius is 3, square root of 9. Because of the plus sign, I know that this is an ellipse. It also equals 1. The center of the ellipse is at 1, negative 2. Which is right here. And since the A below the X is at 9, and it's bigger than 4, that's how I know this is the A. I go up 3 and down 3. The 4 means I go to the right 2 and left 2. And now I know that the major axis is vertical, excuse me. So these are your vertexes. These are your co-vertexes, right here and here. And it's an ellipse. And the only other thing you might have to do is find the focus. And the focus, remember, for any ellipse, you can use the equation. So here, 9 minus 4 is 5. So the square root of 5, that will be where our focus is. Now, if you go from the center, because this is the major axis, I'm going to go up and down root 5. So with my center at, excuse me, 1, negative 2, going up and down root 5 is only going to affect the y-coordinate. So one of my focus is going to be at negative 2 plus root 5, with the x being 1, and the other focus is going to be at negative 2 minus root 5. And these would be the coordinates of my 2 focus points. Identify the conic section. Obviously, this is a hyperbola. Write the equation of this graph. So first of all, I need to know what the P is. The P is the distance from the focus to the vertex, or the vertex to the, I'm sorry, excuse me. That would be parabola. Totally messed that up. So sorry about that. Basically, a hyperbola, remember, is going to be, you need to know where the center is. And since the center is at 0, 0, I know I have x squared and y squared. I can see right here that the horizontal translation from my center to here is, it looks like it's exactly 4, negative 4 and 4. So that would mean under my x coordinate, I have 4 squared, which is 16. And it's a hyperbola, so I know it's subtraction. But I don't know what is under my y squared. And that's going to be my b, or sorry, excuse me, my b squared. But I do know my focus is, it looks like it is exactly at 7. Focus is right here at 7. So if my focus is at 7, that means that to move from my center, I moved all the way over from 0, 0 to 7. So that would be, we can use our formula to how we could find the focus. That would be a squared. It's actually plus b squared. Square rooted, we'll get a 7. That means that inside our square root, it has to be a 49. A squared is, we already know, is 16. And since 16 plus what number would get us 49? Well, it would be 33. So that means b squared has to be 33. So now I know it's x squared minus y squared over 33. And again, it always equals 1. Write the equation of this in standard conic section. It's a parabola because there's only one variable being squared. So I'm going to move all my y squareds to one side, and my y squared and my y. And I'm going to move my x's to the other side by adding x and subtracting 25. So in order to complete this square right here, I'm going to add 25 on both sides. So this side, if I actually factor, will be y minus 5 squared equals, and then here the 25's cancel out, I'm just left with x. And now here is my final form of the parabola. I could see that with this being negative 5, my parabola is at, and there's no translation here by the x, my vertex is going to be at 0, 5. I also know that the parabola, because it's positive 1, my p would be, this comes from 4 times p. So my p would have to be 1/4. What else do I know? Since it's y squared, it either opens left or right, and since it's positive, it opens to the right. And then that reminds me, let's go back a couple problems. So that's the answer to this one. to go back a couple problems, just a reminder that you do sometimes need to know what the equation of the asymptote is. And when you do find the equation of the asymptote, all you have to do is find 2 points. You're going to have 2 points because you have the center point. And remember, when we make a hyperbola, we do use the box method. So you're going to have a point right here and right here that the line goes through. So using what you learned in algebra, just use these 2 points to put an equation in slope-intercept form. And then the only other thing I could tell you, reminder with drawing parabolas, is when you go to draw them on a graph, wherever the focus is, if that's the focus, remember that since this parabola goes this way, let's say this is the vertex, this is the focus. So you're not sure exactly how wide to draw your parabola. Remember that this distance from the focus is always 4p. So in this case, since p is 1/4, this distance will be, the whole distance will be 1. So on one side of the focus, it'll be a half. And on the other side, you should go a half. And then you can make your parabola. I think this is the last one. Oh, there's actually 2 more. Write the equation of this in standard form. So here we have 2 things that are being squared. So we're going to leave them both on the same side. Let's subtract 4. Actually, we don't have to subtract 4 because this part of the equation is already as a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to factor this to y minus 2 squared. In order to complete the square, with this not being 1, it gets a little tricky, but reminder that if you square root a times 2 times the square root of c, you'll always get that b value. So since that b value is 8, that means, and the square root of 4 is 2. So 2 times 2, you already get 4. So that means that the square root of c has to be a 2 in order for this to be an 8. So that means the number you have to add as c would be, the only thing that will get you a 2 is the square root of 4. So that means to complete the square, I'm going to add 4 on both sides, which means I'm going to add it here as well. So this factors into 2x plus 2. Actually, before I do that, since there's a 4, an 8, and a 4, I'm going to factor out a 4. And I'm left inside x squared plus 2x and 4 divided by 4 plus 1. Then that factors into, I'm going to leave the 4 on the outside, x plus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals, and then I think the only thing on the other side right now, I added a 4, so I have to add another 4 on this side. And I have this 4 on that side, so really we have equals 8. So our last step, put this in a different color so you can see it better, is going to be, because there's a plus sign, this is an ellipse. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Here the 4 and the 8 cancel out and reduce to x plus 1 squared over 2 plus over 8, which equals 1. And there is there's your final answer. Last one, identify the conic section, write the equation in the graph. A couple ways you could do this. You could find out the p by just looking, here's the focus right here. So you could find out how much did you go over here and here, because this represents 4p. And it looks like we only went over 1. So if 4p equals 1, that means that p would have to be 1/4. You could have also found p by finding out how far the focus is from the vertex, and again, it's 1/4. So the equation of this graph, it's going up, so it's going to be in this form. X squared equals 4py. We already know that p is 1/4, so that's 1y. And the vertex is at 0, 0, so this is our equation. X squared equals 1y, or x squared equals y. Okay? Went through that pretty quick, but you guys have already done these problems, and the answers are already on Edline. So feel free to watch it again, and I hope that helps.